Welcome to Bluff City Bets, a Bluff City Media podcast. Join Daniel Greer and Chase Bobbitt as they give their plays of the day and strategies for success as a sports bettor. Now, let's get to the show.
Welcome back to Bluff City Bets, the daily fantasy football edition on Thursdays. I'm your host, Mark, and every week we get into our players that we like the best coming up for this weekend. We'll get into our player polls here in just a minute, but before we get too far, I want to make sure that you guys remember, as always, we're presented by Zen Sports here at Bluff City Bets, so make sure you go download their app, the newest, best sports book right here in Tennessee. Go download their app. Use our code BLUFFC, B-L-U-F-F-C, when you download the app so they know that we sent you and that they know that you are part of the Bluff City Bets team. When you download the app, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get some amazing rewards. Not like rewards like you normally think, like I have to spend these extra rewards and bonus bets inside the app or inside the sports book or wherever that might be. This is just truly cash rewards. So when you sign up, you're going to get 5% cash back on all your betting volume, up to 5% cash back for the first 15 days. So that right there in itself is an amazing deal. But then on top of that, you're going to get to up to 3% cash back forever on your betting volume. And then on top of that, you're going to get your own code where you can refer people to and earn commission when they sign up just like we do. So go make sure you download Zen Sports, the Sportsbook app on Apple iTunes, wherever you get any of your apps, and use our code BLUFFC, B-L-U-F-F-C, so that they know that we sent you. So let's get into the show today. Let's start, as we always start, with our quarterback edition. And today's quarterbacks are going to be very similar. Actually, kind of similar than we were last week, but let's get started right off the top, and it's going to be our man, Justin Fields, who's been on this list third week in a row. Everybody thought you guys like, Mark's crazy. 2 weeks ago, Justin was awful. Justin Fields was terrible. Went on a crazy run. Let me pull my notes here so that I know exactly what the stats are for Justin Fields. Let's see. Last week, Justin Fields went for 4 touchdowns last week? Just like a really impressive week last week, as well as the week before. So we're going 3 for 3. We're going 3 weeks in a row with Justin Fields. He's $8,500. He's got a great Vikings matchup, who that defense is pretty atrocious. So I'm looking at Justin Fields to have another solid week this week. And $8,500 for a quarterback who just had the 2 weeks he's had is still pretty good value for where he's at. So I think that he's a guy you can plug in a lot of lineups and still get really good value at the quarterback position. It doesn't take all too much to have to get your value paid back for him. He had, 282 yards, 4 touchdowns. Yeah, 4 touchdowns. So he's had 4 touchdowns the last 2 weeks in a row. So 8 touchdowns in 2 weeks. That's pretty good. So maybe he can play after all. Next quarterback on the list, Patrick Mahomes. I know this is the first time seeing Patrick Mahomes show up on this list, and he's a great quarterback. But for a lot of times, a great quarterback doesn't always mean a good fantasy option in daily fantasy, because the price might be as good as we'd like for it to be, or there's just not enough value there against whatever defense he's playing against. Patrick Mahomes, however, is going against our favorite people, the Broncos. The Broncos defense heals all wounds in daily fantasy football. $9,500. I'll take it. I'll take $9,500 against the Broncos defense, who are last in the league in yards allowed in total yards allowed. They're dead last. I mean, they let people just run, pass all over them. They allow the most passing touchdowns in the league per game. Most passing touchdowns, most total yards allowed. And you got Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce. If you can get Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, get that stat going, I'll take that all day long against the Broncos. I will have him in a lot of lineups. I think that, again, if you're going 9,500 at the quarterback position, you're going to have to come off another position to get some players in there that are going to be good. But I think I'll take that. Next up on the list, Lamar Jackson. Was on our list last week as well. Tennessee, 24th in the league at passing yards allowed. He's $8,000. He's had 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, he had 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and that was against one of the best passing defenses in the league. So I think that he's going to have a pretty good day against Tennessee. Again, at only $8,000, I think that's extremely good value for Lamar Jackson, who I think will he's one of those guys. He's like Patrick Mahomes. He could have a great day against any defense anytime he goes out. You want to obviously set up for the best possible scenario, but he can have the best possible defense, or he can have the best game he can have against anybody really anytime he goes out. So I like Lamar Jackson this weekend. I like him against Tennessee, 24th in the league in the passing yards allowed, $8,000. That's incredible value. So give me some large Lamar Jackson and a lot of my lineups. Next up on our list, Trevor Lawrence. I think it's been a couple weeks since Trevor Lawrence has been on this list, maybe since the first week of start of this show, but $7,600 against the Colts. $7,600 for someone like Trevor Lawrence, who, again, has been up and down. His value is going back up. He had a pretty decent week this week. He's only had a touchdown every week the last 3 weeks, which is fine, gives you 15, 16 points when he does that, but he's throwing the ball a lot, throws the ball about 35, 38 times a game, and has had 250 yards in 3 of the 5 games so far this year. So, Trevor Lawrence is still a good player, and he's going up against the Colts. They are 28th in the league in passing yards allowed. So they have a pretty bad secondary. I think this might be a day he actually is able to, get back on track and really have a really solid, I would say breakout game, but just a really solid game. And again, we're talking about 7,600. You don't have to have a lot from him to get that value back. In terms of points per price per point, you don't have to have a whole lot from Trevor Lawrence to get the value back at 7,600 price point. So he's had over 300 yards passing last week, throwing the ball 30 times a game. Like I said, just the opportunity is there. And that's one thing we look at a lot in daily fantasy football is not only as a good player, but does he have the opportunity, right? Does he have the opportunities to throw the ball, or in receiving, does he have the pass targets, and rushing, does he have the attempts? Does he have the opportunity? And Trevor Lawrence always has the opportunity as much as they like to throw the ball. Our last person on the list is probably going to surprise a lot of people. And this is our value play of the week, Geno Smith. $6,800. This is a guy who's a great value option, a great tournament option. So if you're looking for something that's very different, very contrarian in terms of what people are not going to do, I like Geno Smith this week. I think that, he's a guy that stat-wise, a touchdown in each of the last 2 games. Week 2, he had 2 touchdowns, takes a lot of sacks. He's only had 1 interception the whole, all 4 weeks so far this year. And his yardage is kind of all over the place. Last week was a really bad week for him against the Giants. And he's a guy that is kind of all over the place. He's very boom or bust. But I think, like we talked about before, if you're going to play tournaments, and if you're going to play those tournament style plays, you got to find people and players who are going to get you points and no one else is going to get you. And I think Geno Smith is going to get you points and no one else is going to get you. And that is the biggest thing for him. And pricing at $6,800, that allows you to go and get some of those top wide receiver options, those top running back options, and really make a stacked team. Because again, like we talked about Trevor Lawrence, at price per point, Geno Smith doesn't have to get you much to pay that back. We're talking maybe, 250 passing yards and a touchdown. Again, maybe if it's a 100 yard or 150 yards and a passing touchdown, or 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, that's really all you need from Geno Smith to be able to pay that option back. And again, he's going against, he's up against, he is up against, as soon as I can find it, Geno Smith is up against Cincinnati, one of the worst defenses in the league. So he's got all the opportunity, like we talked about, to be able to do that and to be able to get those points back. So